SF recruiters approached myself and a few other guys, and they're like, "Hey, do you guys want to try out?" Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, that moment in the hotel when I got super mad, part of the reason I wanted to pursue the military was, and then specifically the special forces, was because I wanted to pursue something where success was not guaranteed. Mm-hmm. I mean, when we're little, like, we always want to be the hero of something, right? Mm-hmm. And I think deep down, it's really trying to answer that question, which is, do I have what it takes? Tell me who you want to be before you tell me what you want to achieve, because the identity is what's going to be the foundation on which you stack all of your goals. Real friends stab you in the face. What I mean by that is, like, hey, if you're not measuring up to the standard you've set for yourself, I'm going to call you out. I'm going to say, hey, dude, you're not measuring up.
Welcome back to the Tim Teaches podcast. I'm your host, Tim McCoy. Today, I am joined by former Green Beret and now high performance coach, Chris Lee. Today, we're going to be jumping into who Chris is, where he started his military career a little bit before that, and how he joined the military. Because I know, Chris, we've spoken before, and you didn't join at 17 like most of us guys.
True.
So yeah, I really kind of want to pick your brain a little bit on how you came to that decision to join the military, and if you wouldn't mind, kind of introduce yourself to everybody, and we'll jump into who you are.
Yeah, sounds great. My name's Chris Lee. I am a former Green Beret, and that was a wild time for sure. Right at my 10-year mark, I got out and decided I wanted to do full-time performance coaching. And so I've been doing that since 2022. And I love every minute of it. It's a new adventure every day. It's not jumping out of airplanes, but it's still pretty awesome.
Yeah. How many times have you jumped out of an airplane, man?
Not too many. I was on a free fall team, and I think I've got maybe 50 jumps, which isn't crazy. The guys, the guys on my team, they were 3 of them were instructors down at Yuma, and they've got thousands and thousands of jumps, and it's just unreal. So yeah, I've got a lot of catching up to do. So.
I got no desire to jump out of an airplane. I did a little bit of paragliding. I'm terrified of heights, and every time I got up there, I was like, "What the hell am I doing, man? This is." I see you got your book behind you. Can you kind of jump into that a little bit?
Yeah. So I on my bucket list, I've always wanted to write a book. I just didn't know what to write about, and then through some encouragement through some friends, they're like, "Dude, you should put something out." And so I decided to put my whole coaching philosophy into about 150 pages. And that's what Beyond the Battlefield's all about. It's not war stories. I've got a couple training stories in there, but it's really my whole philosophy on how I coach people day to day. And so if somebody didn't want to pull the trigger and work with me one-on-one, they could at least get the book and go through my process and hopefully get some value from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, you didn't join the military at 17 years old, like us. Can you kind of jump into that?
Sure.
What led you to joining the military, and what were you doing before that?
Yeah, I was working at this fancy hotel in Virginia, and great job. My job included, teaching kids how to play Frisbee golf and roasting marshmallows for them on the weekend. It was super cush, and it was paying the bills. It was great. I remember the night though, the dining room was having trouble keeping up with some of the patrons. Like, they were just short staffed. And so they asked my department, the activities department, "Hey, can you guys come help?" Absolutely. So I go out to the kitchen and I carry a tray of food to the patrons, and everybody was super polite. Nobody was rude to me. I gave them their meals. And then as I'm returning to the kitchen with this empty tray, I just got overwhelmingly furious about what I was doing right in that moment. I was 27 at the time, and I was like, "Chris, you have to do something else." Mm-hmm. And so from like that moment on, I just started researching military, and I actually went to the Marine recruiters first, and they were like, "Dude, why are you trying to get in so late in the game?" And I was like, "Bro, I'm in pretty good shape. I think I can keep up." So so they turned me down, and then tried with the Army and pursued that, and then went Special Forces.
Nice. Yeah, 28. Did you have any prior people in your family or friends that were in the military, or that was just kind of a one-off?
Both of my grandfathers served in the Army. My my dad, this is why I was super nervous about, pursuing this path. My dad was actually a conscientious objector during Vietnam.
Mhm.
And so again, I'm an adult at this time, at this point. I'm 28, and I'm like, I'm doing this because this is going to be the best decision for me, but I should probably tell my family. So, hey, Dad, I think I'm going to join the Army. And he was like, just super proud. He's like,
All
yes,
right.
this is such a great opportunity for you. I think there's a lot of, pride. It'll give you some confidence. This is going to be amazing for you. And so tons of support from him, which was like a weight off my shoulder for sure. Cause I was like super nervous about telling him. But he was nothing but supportive, and it was awesome. So, but yeah, that
Yeah,
was the big one I was worried about. So
yeah, I would imagine, especially I'm kind of in that boat. I'm a conscientious objector to a lot of different wars because of, going to Iraq. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think that was a good move, so with my son, I would be super proud of him if he joined. He's only 5 now, but geez, he's wearing
yeah,
like BDUs already. I'm like, bro, I don't even talk to him about the military. It's just in his blood. But
right,
like I could totally understand where it would be if your son wanted to join the military. For some of these wars, it's might not be the
right,
best move. And
right.
so, but good on him for supporting you. And so you went down, you signed up, and easy peasy. Or
Uh, no. So I talked to my recruiter, and he could tell, yeah, obviously, Chris, you're 28 years old. You're not right out of high school. You know what you want to do. He was like, I think you'd be good for an 18 X-ray contract. 18 X-ray is like the contract you get to go from civilian, and then after basic and airborne school, you get an opportunity to try out for special forces. You don't need any prior service to that. I was like, yeah, that's the one I want for sure. While I was at MEPS, everything was going great. Physical went great. I've been athletic most of my life, and I went to the final interview with the doc there, and he's like, "Hey, I'm super stoked that you're going to go special forces. I worked with a couple of those guys. They're awesome. Best of luck to you." And he's looking through my medical file, and he's like, "Oh shoot, hold on a second." And then he goes over to his big shelf and pulls off this big, Army manual and opens it up. And he's like, "Hey man, sorry to tell you, but you had a knee surgery when you were little. I can't give you any kind of airborne contract from MEPS. And that includes the 18 X-ray contract." And I was like, "Oh no, what does
yeah,
that mean, doc?" And he's like, "Hey, you can still join the Army, but I can't give you an airborne contract." And so I was all poopy face, went out to my recruiter, told him what was up. And he was like, "Hey man, we can roll the dice. You can enlist as 11 Bravo, infantryman, and then maybe, hopefully, you could pick up an 18 X-ray contract while at basic." And at that point, I'd trained for so long and was just mentally ready to do it. I was like, "Yeah, let's go for it." And then that's what happened. A few weeks into basic, some SF recruiters approached myself and a few other guys, and they're like, "Hey, do you guys want to try out?" Yeah, absolutely. So signed on the dotted line there.
how many guys go into the Green Berets? I was in the Army, but definitely not a
Yeah.
Green Beret.
Somebody's gonna have to check me on my numbers, but I think in regiment, and that includes all of the groups around all over the U.S.
Mhm.
I think there's about 6,000 Green Berets.
All right.
Um, so uh, yeah, so not super small. I know there's a couple other special operations units that are a little smaller, but last I heard it was about 6,000.
Yeah. So I was a truck driver. Well, technically I was a truck driver. I never actually really drove trucks. I was convoy security,
Yeah,
most of the time. But yeah, those guys, they're pretty freaking high speed and get tasked with some cool stuff. We never really saw a lot of those dudes. They were out kind of doing their own thing. I was with, big Army, but
yeah.
uh, did you, did you enjoy it? Did you?
It was a blast. I so selection, and this sounds super cliche, but it is what it is. But
Mhm.
selection was the easy part. It's a few weeks and then you're done. And then like the real difficult task begins, which is the Q course. And I was voluntold to be a medic, which tacks on like an extra year to the Q. So I was in the Q course for like 3 years, and then finally get to my first team in Germany, and just some of the best dudes in the world. I'm still great friends with a few of them, and we hang out. That they're just phenomenal. And then being in Germany, we got interesting mission sets. Like my very first trip with the team was we went to Serbia for like a week to augment the Secret Service.
Oh yeah.
The vice president was coming in to give a speech at the time, and so we got to like hang out with Secret Service, which was phenomenal. And I'm a brand new guy on the team. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Oh yeah. Who was the VP at the time?
It was Joe Biden at the time.
Oh really?
Yeah, yeah.
How is he?
So being the new guy, you're familiar with challenge coins and stuff. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
at some point, we're all doing our security. I was stuck in like a stairwell somewhere, and at some point, the VP, wanted to get a picture with all the guys, the team guys, and give them challenge coins, and they just didn't come get me from the stairwell to get the picture. And so the whole team got a pick and a challenge coin from the vice president. But I'm holding down this stairwell, making sure nobody comes up it. So it was kind of funny.
No. That's brutal. Wow.
Yeah, I was the new guy, so whatever.
Yeah, yeah. They stuff you in the stairwell. I get it.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, at least you got a story. You didn't get a coin, but if anybody out there on Joe Biden's team, if he remembers that, maybe he can get a coin still.
Yeah.
Man, so how long did you stay in the Green Berets, and then what was kind of your thoughts on getting out?
Yeah. I tell you that moment in the hotel when I got super mad, um, part of the reason I wanted to pursue the military was, and then specifically the special forces, was because I wanted to pursue something where success was not guaranteed.
Mhm.
And that was like a big driving factor. I'm not a big fan of participation trophies. And so as my military career progressed, right around the 10-year mark, and that's kind of when you need to decide if you're going to stay in for 20 or you're going to go get out and do something else.
Mhm.
Right around the 10-year mark, I was kind of thinking along the same lines of why I got in. And I realized that I personally was creeping into this like group, that the folks there's two groups of folks that stay in for 20, in my opinion. Group A, they just love the job. They absolutely love what they do. They desperately want to pass on their guidance and their experiences to the next generation of soldier. And that's what they live for. And then group B is like, they stay in because it's the safe option. It's a dangerous job sometimes, for sure. But ultimately the safety net that the military provides is super appealing. And I found myself creeping into that group B. And so at my 10-year mark, I realized that if I were to stay in, it would be because it was safe. And so I was like, well, that means I got to get out. So got out and started with something brand new, and been coaching ever since. And it's been wild. I tell people often, I feel like a private all over again because I'm learning new stuff all the time. For
Yeah.
sure.
What are most of the guys who are or gals who are signing up with you? Like, what is
Yeah.
kind of their intent of signing up, and is it kind of the same caliber of people, or are you getting people from all different walks of life?
All different walks of life. I work with folks. Some are like, young, like one guy just enlisted and he's at basic right now, with an 18 X-ray contract. So young guys like that, all the way up to, one of my best clients is a lawyer from South Africa. And she was just like, I need to change the way I operate in my life. And so it's this wide variety of like young kids that are trying to make something of themselves. And then a lot of executives and professionals that have established themselves in their careers, but just want to take it to the next level.
Mhm.
And on paper, none of us have anything in common. Like it was just a weird group that that we all get together. I do group calls a couple times a week, and it's cool to see everybody kind of come together. But I found that this kind of tribe mentality is definitely starting to solidify and connect us all.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is like some of the older folks, the more professional, they almost are naturally mentoring the younger folks without me even having to involve myself, which is cool because now it's like it's a true tribe dynamic, and it's phenomenal. I get stoked every time I hop on a group call.
Yeah, that makes your job a little bit easier. And you're gathering, those people are getting free mentoring from other professionals. That's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah.
What about you? Like what's the average everyday life, every day? Chris, I follow you, man. So I see you working doing all kinds of stuff, but for people who don't yet.
Yeah, I do try to work out for sure. I have a sauna in my garage, so I love doing sauna. Um, a typical day, it's hard to nail down because I either have calls or for whatever reason I don't have any calls, and then it turns into kind of like more of an admin day. Now, the danger with how I've set things up is my office is at home, my gym is at home, and I obviously live at home, and so I I could go like weeks without ever having to leave my house,
Mhm.
which I think can be dangerous because I'm naturally a bit introverted, and so like I'm totally okay with that. But I do understand like the necessity for like human connection, and more so than like while I'm on the clock, like while I'm working. And so I'm making more of an effort to like connect with buddies in town and hang out with them and getting involved with other programs and stuff like that. But a typical day, it's like, all right, wake up. Do I have a call? Yeah. All right, let's bang this out. Let's work through some of these sticking points that folks are navigating. Or maybe I don't have calls. So then it's like more, designing content creation, coming up with new book ideas and stuff like that. And so keeps me busy and it's always interesting.
Yeah. So I focus a lot on mental health in military law enforcement because I did a little bit of both. And being in the special forces, obviously 10 years, you met a lot of dudes and saw a lot of different people deal with mental challenges. Dude, I just got a text this morning, from a lady I've never met, but she commented on one of my posts that, her husband had killed himself a couple of months ago. And I'm looking through her Facebook and it's like, they got 4 beautiful children and it just breaks my heart. And, I assume you've probably met a lot of dudes who've dealt with mental health issues. Do you have recommendations or what kind of support do you recommend for those guys? Have you ever dealt with any of that stuff yourself?
Yeah. So one organization that I've worked pretty closely with here in Colorado Springs is Special Forces Foundation. And that's kind of their bread and butter is helping dudes that are just hurting get the help that they need, whether that's talking with somebody or, trying new treatments to deal with PTSD or substance abuse or whatever. And so phenomenal organization. Check them out, Special Forces Foundation. And then to answer your question, have I ever dealt with that stuff? Yeah. When we went to Afghanistan in 21, it was an interesting trip, and primarily because we didn't do a whole lot. And when I joined the Army, I had kind of this vision in my head of the kind of soldier that I wanted to be. And I mean, when we're little, like we always want to be the hero of something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think deep down, it's really trying to answer that question, which is, do I have what it takes? And so when we went to Afghanistan and we were essentially on lockdown, we weren't allowed outside the wire really, with the exception of maybe doing some security for convoys and stuff like that. And so when the trip wrapped up and nothing was accomplished, and at that point we were getting ready to draw out, and the Afghans that we were working with were like, dude, you're leaving us, and we're like, it's not our call. It was just a rough trip. And so I get home and wife and kids wind up going, just like, due to timing, they go on vacation almost as soon as I get back. So I'm just in. It was rough, dude. And
Yeah.
so
Thanks.
and so I was on the struggle bus, man. I got back and was really questioning, like, well, then what is my purpose? I just spent a decade of my life trying to be a Green Beret, and I get the opportunity to deploy and then go do it, and I wasn't allowed to. So what was the point of the last decade? All the birthdays I missed, all the, anniversaries, all the school functions that I missed from being deployed or training or whatever. Like, what was the point? And then me being in the house by myself, it's like, I went to, vodka and Red Bulls to deal with some of that. And it was just bad. And so I got to a point where I was so, like, in the middle of the abyss that I went to my office and pulled my sidearms off my top shelf and put it in my mouth, and it was like, it was kind of in that moment where I realized that I needed to reestablish my purpose. If the military wasn't, at that point, I'd kind of already decided I was going to get out. If the military wasn't going to be my purpose, that's okay. I need to build another one then. And that is vital. I think one of the most dangerous places a man and woman can be in is navigating life without purpose, And so I eventually got out, started coaching, and that's kind of reinvigorated my drive for life, my purpose, and why I get up every day.
Man, that's brutal and a close call. Like, and
Yes.
I'm happy that you didn't go down that road, man, because it's not worth it for your family or for anybody. But I understand it. I've been, I've never put a gun in my mouth, but those thoughts ruminate in your head, when you're the dude sitting by yourself on a couch and you got no purpose. You don't understand, like, what's all this for? What have I been doing? That it's rough, Yeah. And, but there's so many guys, man, that if you're listening to this and you're having those thoughts, please, there are alternative therapies out there that can help you. And it's not just the VA, or, look into it, send a DM to me or anybody, in this thread that has knowledge of it. Because there are substances and stuff that can help you. Man, that it makes me sick, honestly, because guys don't deserve that, And there's really, once you get out of the military, there's not a lot of support for guys. So what you're doing is amazing, and I know you don't just focus on veterans by any means, but people need somebody to talk to, And the VA is not. God bless them, but they're overwhelmed, and they're not sitting down having a real conversation with you. It's like, how are you feeling? Here's a script,
Right.
And but any guys that that have gotten help through other, like, I've done ayahuasca, and we've talked about that in the past. That really helped me. I don't promote drugs or illegal drugs or anything like that, but I do promote what works, and that worked for me.
Absolutely. I've had the good fortune to participate as med support for a setting where several veterans that were just hurting, like physically, mentally. Some were dealing with PTSD, like nightmares all the time. Some were experiencing, phantom limb pain due to amputations and stuff. And they used some of these alternative medicines, to include psychedelics, to navigate through some of that. And it was absolutely profound to see the change from when those guys showed up to when the weekend ended. And then the week follow-up was incredible, because we all hopped on a Zoom call and everyone was smiling. It was awesome to see guys that were used to running at like an 8 or 9 pain level every day, hop on the call and smile naturally because the pain is diminished significantly. Or the guys that, haven't been able to sleep all the way through the night because of nightmares now are like, yeah, dude, I'm getting 8 or 9 hours a night, no nightmares. It's absolutely incredible. Some of those alternative medicines. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is incredible. And there's a lot of different foundations that are helping vets out there. And
Yes.
so, yeah, good on those guys, man. I am so appreciative of those people. Um, Man, you got a couple of daughters. I was listening to some other podcast. I have
Yeah.
a daughter. She's 3 years old. She's pretty sassy. What can I expect?
They only get sassier, man.
Yeah.
I've got an 18-year-old and a 10-year-old. And my 18-year-old I'm super proud of her. She's wanting to join the Air Force. And so I'm super stoked about that. Um, and I'm proud of her. So I'm excited for that journey for sure. But she's also still a teenager.
Yeah.
And so I have to navigate how I give instruction. Typically, if it comes out of my mouth, it's a stupid idea. And so I have to adjust how I teach. And what I mean by that is like it's easier just to live it. And hopefully they soak up some of that through osmosis. Teenagers, I remember when I was a teenager, I didn't want to be lectured. I didn't want a lesson every time I sat down with my dad. And so I found that instead of like instructing all the time, I just got to live it and just love on them, and be there for them.
Yeah. That's key for everybody around you, honestly. I have a lot of people in my sphere that won't necessarily take advice from me, which is fine. But
Yeah.
they've seen a lot of different changes in me over the last couple of years, and they're starting to go, well, what's this guy doing different? And oh, he's changed this and this. Maybe I should try some of these things. And I've had a handful of guys who have gone kind of down the same route as me as far as like getting the help that you need, and so just being that light and being that guide, not through instruction, is important. So yeah, I'm trying to do that to my kids too. I tell them what to do because they're 5 and 3 still, but I'm also trying to be an example to them.
Yeah.
Man, we're only 23 minutes into this. I feel like we've already covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But can you? If you got any cool stories or anything, I did hear about one of your jumps. Maybe you could share that with somebody or share it with the audience.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So my first 3 years in group were in Stuttgart, Germany. I was with phenomenal dudes. And right after I had graduated the Q course, it was during a time where everybody was getting free fall school. And so I go to free fall school, graduate, come back with my halo wings, get stationed in Germany. As soon as I show up, they're like, "Did you go to free fall school?" Roger that, Sergeant. All right, start doing push-ups. They were just super salty because I was a brand new guy out of the pipeline. They got free fall. And I get it. I totally get it. But Germany's also, the weather isn't always conducive for airborne operations. And so I actually didn't jump free fall for the 3 years that I was in Germany. And when I got orders for Fort Carson here in Colorado, as luck would have it, I landed on a free fall team. And so different teams have different specialties. There's dive teams and ruck teams and mobility teams and free fall teams. So I landed on a free fall team and new guy again. And so our first trip together was to go down to Arizona and do a requalification, make sure everybody's skill set was up to par. And again, I mentioned earlier, I had the great fortune that 3 of the guys on my team had been instructors. So they were super comfortable in the sky. They just knew what to do. But Monday morning, we were doing a Hollywood jump, which is just our parachute, altimeter, and helmet and radio. And I go out to the aircraft and I was like, man, I'm a little nervous. I haven't done this in 3 years.
Oh,
let's see what happens. And so we get out to the aircraft. We get up to altitude, 12 to 14,000 feet. Stand up, do our final safety checks. Ramp drops open, get a green light. I'm in the middle of the stack so they can keep an eye on me. First couple guys get to the edge of the ramp, they dive out, and then I'm inching my way forward. I get to the edge of the ramp, I dive out, had a great exit, turn on heading, check altimeter, pull ripcord, everything went perfect. I was like, sweet, this is like riding a bike. And so as the week progressed, we just started adding more and more equipment to ourselves. Friday morning, we're doing a wall locker jump. So everything in our wall locker is now attached to us. I had a rucksack between my legs, a rifle across my waist, an oxygen tank with a mask, a chest rig with GPS and compass, and chute and helmet and radio. So we're like way down. When we waddle out to the aircraft, I'm still middle of the stack, but we get up to altitude again, 12 to 14,000 feet. Stand up, do our final safety checks. Ramp drops open, green light. Everybody's starting to exit. And again, at this point, I'm feeling really good. I'm like, I've shaken the dust off. I remember how to do this skill set. So I get to the edge of the ramp and I dive out, great exit, turn on heading, check altimeter, pull ripcord, and I look up and I've got line twists. So if you're going to have a parachute malfunction, that's the one you want because it's super easy to fix. You just pull the riser, so the line's going from your harness to the chute. You just pull them apart and eventually you unwind and you're good to go. However, free fall chutes are designed slightly different than in your typical airborne chute. Airborne chutes, like they throw you out of the airplane and you can kind of steer them, but not really. They're really just designed to drop you. Free fall chutes, they are very maneuverable. And for every vertical foot that you drop, it drives you forward 3 feet. They're designed like a wing. Mm-hmm. And so as I'm like unwinding myself, my chute kicks me out sideways. And so now I'm almost parallel to the earth. And then due to the shape of the wing, it's driving me towards the ground. And I'm like, all right, well, that's an issue. And then I begin to spiral. So imagine tying a rock on the end of a string and swinging it over your head. I was the rock in that analogy. And so I'm like whipping through the sky, and I can't control my chute because my lines are still twisted. And somebody intelligent or more experienced would have just cut that parachute away, pulled their reserve, and everything would have been fine. I was stubborn and was like, don't look dumb. And so as I'm whipping through the sky, I'm like, just fix your problem, Chris. And I'm like shouting expletives at the canopy for not working properly. and because I'm like spiraling, like the blood is rushing to my feet. And so my vision starts to close in like this. And kind of finally, right before like it goes black, my lines untwist. And so I grab my brakes and I yank them, and that levels me out. So I'm under good canopy, which is awesome, but I'm like incredibly dizzy now. Because my team sergeant later said that he watched me spiral like 7 or 9 times. I lost like 7,000 feet altitude or something like that. Just ridiculous. And so all right. So now I'm under good canopy, incredibly dizzy, can't find any of my friends in the sky. And that's when they all start yelling over the radio. Chris, you're going the wrong way. Turn around. Chris, check your GPS. I check my GPS. It's just spinning in circles because I'm so dizzy. And finally there's a break in radio chatter, and Matt, super senior guy on the team, he was an instructor. He's like, hey, Chris, turn towards the sun. And we had just been jumping in the morning. And so the sun was coming up and our drop zone was generally east of us. And so I look around and the sun's right behind me. So I hit a hard left turn. My buddy Andy kind of swoops in front of me and guides me, and we all land on the DZ together. And I pull my oxygen mask off and I'm just dry heaving. And so I take Matt out for a beer later that night because I definitely owed him one. And he was like, Chris, what you experience is what I call the Phoenix phenomenon. Tell me more. He's like, every chute has a cypress, which is a device that if you were to exit the aircraft and were unconscious or something and just falling at terminal velocity, that cypress would recognize that you're falling too fast once you hit a certain altitude, and it will fire and deploy your reserve for you, which is great.
Yeah.
But he said, because I was spiraling, I wasn't falling fast enough for that to have engaged. And had I not fixed myself, I would have burned in like a phoenix. Uh, which is like in hindsight, I was like, that's a little squirrely. Okay, maybe I dodged one right there, but it was such a profound moment in my life that I base a lot of my coaching practices around that, and I put the story in the book, and the way I kind of relate it to my coaching is when you're navigating the chaos of life, when you're like disoriented by all the stuff that's happening to you, you have to have something off in the distance that's unmoving that you can orient yourself to. And for me in my coaching practice, it's identity, goals. The identity piece is important because it's like, tell me who you want to be before you tell me what you want to achieve. Because the identity is what's going to be the foundation on which you stack all of your goals. And so identity is like the sun in the sky that you can always look up to see if you're on track or not.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's pretty hairy.
Yeah.
I'm glad you pulled it together. What are well, I kind of like what you were just talking about there with your coaching, as far as like, who you want to be, and then you kind of create the path to get there.
Yeah.
Are most people aiming too high or too low, or right on target?
Great question. And my clients and I go through this exercise where it's like, all right, tell me who you want to be. Imagine 5 years from now, everything is perfect. Tell me what that guy or gal looks like. Tell me how she behaves, how she operates, how she interacts with other people. Tell me about that person. And then based on that, we'll set up goals. Now, when we move into the goal setting portion of coaching, I typically have to tell people to aim higher. There's a quote I usually paraphrase from Bill Gates that says, we often overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and drastically underestimate what we can accomplish in 5. And that's how I structure my goal setting and backwards planning. It's like, all right, take all the things you want to do, but spread it out over 5 years and now make the goals bigger, because there's so much that can get done in a 5-year span if you are able to remain consistent with your daily tasks that are required to get there. I refer to it as the compound interest of effort. If you can stack a bunch of tiny wins consistently every day, by the end of the 5 years, you're like a whole new person, and that's kind of the intent.
Yeah. And it's amazing how fast those 5 years will go by. It just flies by.
That's a fact.
I have, my biggest problem is like, I'm instant gratification guy. Because I make stuff happen, but when the numbers don't go up, fast enough, I'm like, what, I get pissed, and that's where I get frustrated, and then I lose my motivation, with working out, all this stuff. Like, I work out for a week and I jump on the scale and I'm like, this fucking thing didn't move, like, or I fasted for 72 hours and I lost 3 pounds. What the hell is going on? And instead of doing maybe intermittent fasting for a month, I just, And so that's one of my big struggles, is like trying to get out of that instant gratification mindset and set my goals longer term, And so I have a full blown relationship with ChatGPT where I'm constantly plugging in my numbers, and it literally is like, okay, Tim, like in 6 months from now, you'll be here, like you're making good progress. And it's, I need somebody, and we've talked before, and I jumped on a call with you before, and man, I'm all over the place when it comes to like doing this podcast and working and running a family and stuff, but having that accountability is crucial. And especially, I like the concept of a group, where you got, other people there supporting you and going, hey, you weren't on the call today. Where were you?
Right.
So I like that format. So you do one-on-one coaching and group?
That's correct. Yeah. So most of my clients have come to me for one-on-one stuff. And then as a result, they participate in their group calls as well. And then there's a few that have just joined the community to be part of the group calls. I've got my whole coaching course and some other like webinars I've done posted in there on the school app under the classroom section. And so like they can go and review my thought process and my philosophy, and then jump on and get some value from like the group calls and stuff. But you bring up an excellent point. When I first started my coaching practice, the overwhelmingly the common theme was like, Chris, where do I find more people like me? I want an excellent life. I want an awesome story to tell at the end of my life. Where can I find more people like that? Because nobody around me is interested in that. And that's what kind of inspired me. Like, dude, maybe I should just gather them all together and let them hang out virtually. And it has been a game changer. Because you're right, it develops this sense of accountability, but also community. When I refer to them as like my tribe, but I think tribe is interesting because there's more expected of you. Mm-hmm. It's like they want to hold you to a standard, and we've gotten to the point where, well, one of my favorite lines is, real friends stab you in the face, and so what I mean by that is like, hey, if you're not measuring up to the standard you've set for yourself, I'm going to call you out. I'm going to say, hey, dude, you're not measuring up, and we've created this environment where like we're comfortable hearing that. And I think that's a great place to be, because now you're open to like objective, loving feedback from people that you actually respect, and say, all right, if they're seeing something that I'm missing because I'm in my scope, then I should probably listen to them because I trust them. I know they want what's best for me, and then we can move forward like that. So yeah, accountability through community is a game changer.
Very key. I was going to kind of ask you, because I'm looking at all your books behind you, and like, where are you going for knowledge? You got books, any podcasts that you're listening to, or who are the guys that you're kind of tapping for information?
Yeah. I love reading. That's a big source. I've got my bookshelf here. I love podcasts too. Joe Rogan's one of my favorites. I love Sean Ryan. Jordan Peterson, a huge fan of Jordan Peterson. I think he's just a smart dude that's like pretty on point. And he actually has a great philosophy. It's like, if you want to, change the world, set the bar super low. Or if you're having trouble, tackling anything, set the bar even lower. Sometimes we put this like pressure on ourselves that we need to be like phenomenal all the time, where in actuality, if you just create small tasks that have a cumulative effect on your life, then that's what's going to be the real game changer. Like going to the gym, even when you're not seeing results for the first couple of weeks or month or 2 months, staying consistent with that, creating that habit will change the way you look, the way you feel, the way you operate. And so, like I said, huge fan of Jordan Peterson. I think his thoughts align with my philosophy pretty well. But yeah, podcasts, books. That's kind of where I go to.
I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan, Sean Ryan. I tag him every once in a while. You never know. Man, you got quite the following. It's I think the last time we spoke, I mean, you're up 20,000 on Instagram. Like, how are you doing that? Just are people just sharing your stuff?
Yeah, I think so. Full disclosure, I don't particularly care or enjoy social media. I view it as like this thing where it's, if I want to run a business, you got to have social media. And so if I'm going to do it, let's make the internet a little bit more positive, right? Yeah. And so that was a big driving factor of a lot of the content that I post, is like, how can I provide value for somebody right now through lessons I've learned or mistakes I've made, and help them avoid those mistakes, So I had the great fortune of, when I first started my coaching practice and I was doing, TikTok and Instagram videos myself, and they were hot garbage. This video editor, this video editor reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey man, I'm an editor. I love your message. Would you want to work together?" Absolutely. Please help me. And he crushed it. He took my following from like a couple of hundred on each platform and just skyrocketed. Like TikTok, I think I'm at 130K, and then Instagram I'm at like 80, which isn't crazy, but it's like
that's huge nowadays
from where I'm from, and so definitely shout out to him. Like he crushed it. But I don't like sitting in front of a camera and making content. It's uncomfortable for me. And so part of that is like, I got to make myself do it. And like, hey, this is helping people. Hopefully they're getting value from it. Let's keep doing it. Let's try to be more consistent,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm kind of the socially awkward dude in real life, when I'm around people I don't know and not comfortable with. Behind a camera, I guess I'm getting more comfortable. It's definitely not something that comes natural for me, especially when I'm sick. Sorry, buddy. I'm usually on fire, or on fire. I'm just like hanging on by a thread. But yeah, man, I need somebody like that because my content it's okay, but my social media stuff is kind of trash, and I want to improve it just for the fact that the message I think that we're all sharing is an important one that needs to be shared, because it is nothing but a bunch of AI crap out there right now, and your typical booty shaking videos, man, I'm sick and tired of it. I've gone through the algorithm this morning. I was like, not interested. Yeah. I don't see anything from people, a handful of people I see. Yours is one of them. Thank goodness, but yeah, man, that's incredible. I'm proud of you for knowing what you're good at, and pawning off the stuff that you're not good at, and that's key.
Right.
Like some things, some people, if you're, I'm not a mechanic, dude, I'm never going to work on my truck. But when it comes to technology, I'm your dude, so everybody's got their specialty. So if you're not perfect at something, find the people who are and circle, have those people in your circle to help you succeed. And I think that's important. Man, what am I missing? If people want to get a hold of you, like, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok and Instagram. My handle is coach_Chris.Lee. For both of those. My book's on Amazon, Beyond the Battlefield. Go check it out. I'd love the support. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm also on the school app. That's where my community is. It's called Top Tier Performance. So check me out there. If you're interested, there's a 7-day free trial. So come check out, hang out on the group calls. And if you like it, stay. If you don't, no hard feelings. Yeah.
Right on. Is your book in audio form?
I was just thinking about that yesterday. I've had a couple requests, and it's currently not. But I thought like maybe that would be a fun project is to read the book and
you got to do it, man. Yeah, that's the only way I will ever read it, because I don't know why I can't sit there and read a book. I'll read articles all day long, but if it's more than 10 pages, I'm out. But I do a lot of audiobooks, and you should do it. You should do it in your own voice, because you got a good voice, man. Awesome. I appreciate you joining me, and I hope people reach out to you and sign up. I'm gonna be in contact with you again and jump on your guys' platform, because it is important and valuable, and I know you're doing a good service for people. So thank you guys for watching. Please like, share, and sorry about my voice today.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.